I spent over a year too scared to leave my first job as a physical therapist, and that decision literally cost me thousands of dollars, and it kept me in the same city doing the same things every single day. And this is something I feel like I see a lot, being paralyzed by choice or waiting for that perfect moment that you know is probably never going to come. I was working with a patient a few months ago, and we were having a really interesting conversation in the clinic. He's only a few years younger than me, but he was telling me about kind of where he felt he was in life. He was telling me how he kind of felt like he was stuck, and that how all the decisions that he had made up to this point had kind of led him to where he is right now, and that was feeling like he wasn't really doing anything. And so when I asked him, okay, so what do you want to do? What do you think you want to do to kind of get out of this feeling of being in a rut or feeling stuck? And he gave me this long laundry list of ideas of things that he feels like he can do, other jobs he feels like he can take, just options. And then I said, okay, so which one do you think you want to pursue? And he said, I don't know. I feel like I just can't decide. And I'm pretty sure we've all had plenty of moments like that where we just couldn't make a decision or choose between any of the options that are given to us. At least it has to me. This feeling of indecisiveness where you feel like you just can't come to a conclusive decision. This can include small things like deciding what to eat for dinner or whether or not you deserve that new pair of shoes. You always deserve a new pair of shoes. Maybe even possible life-altering decisions like taking that new job in that new city that you've always wanted to explore, or quitting that dream job to pursue some sort of passion project. Indecisiveness is not an uncommon feeling at all. Now, I like to pride myself on being able to make quick decisions. It may not be the best decision or even the right decision at the time, but it's done. The decision is made. But I definitely wasn't always like that, and I still struggle with indecision myself sometimes. Let me give you a couple of examples because I feel like indecision can just show itself in a bunch of different ways. So growing up, I was definitely a bit of a gamer. I played a lot of video games growing up. I love my handhelds, I love my Game Boys, my PlayStations. I was into all that. One of the game series that kept me busy a lot when I was younger was Pokemon. And even if you never played Pokemon itself or yourself, then you should really kind of know the gist of what the story is. You start an adventure, you get a choice of 3 little monsters, and you pick one, and from there you go on your grand adventure in the game. So the funny thing about me is a lot of the times when I would play these games, I would pick one monster, I would pick one Pokemon, and I would start the game and get a good ways through the game. But I would, in the back of my mind, I would think like, man, what would it be like if I chose the other one? So I would literally restart the game, even though I was a good deal through the game, pick the other one and restart the whole thing over again. And there were even times where I would go back a third time just to pick the third monster because I had that FOMO. I didn't know what I was missing out with that other option, and then restart the game a second time before I had even got a decent way through the game. Literally denying myself a fun experience, a fun, relaxing gaming experience just because I couldn't make or stick with a choice. And that's so crazy to me. And that's obviously not a very life-altering decision, but I think it's kind of funny, and it also kind of goes to show that indecisiveness can kind of show itself in a lot of different ways. Now, I've talked about the fact that I switched from traditional staff clinician work in one clinic to the more travel contract work that I do now. And again, best decision I could have made for this time in my life. Glad I did it. I should have done it a long time ago. But again, prior to this, I literally found every reason to not even want to attempt this. Fear of the unknown, not wanting to be the new clinician in these new clinics, not feeling good enough, not feeling flexible enough, and just knowing that I was able to thrive in the town where I'm from and not have to go through that change. All of those thoughts just kind of kept me in that one place for longer than I really needed to be. But eventually I was able to realize that this way of thinking was holding me back. It was holding me back from growing as a person, growing as a clinician, literally going out and exploring new places that I've always wanted to see, and I was literally leaving money on the table. And I never leave money on the table. And for just one more example, I was super indecisive about starting YouTube, starting this whole channel and just kind of jumping into something new that I've never done before. No experience recording or even editing videos, not knowing all of the work on all the processes that went into making a decent video, having friends that were successful and thinking I could never be as good as them. These were the reasons or excuses that I was giving myself to not even start on YouTube. I'd go back and forth literally all the time about whether or not to start or just to not do it. And one day I just made the decision. I grabbed my camera, set up a little cheap tripod, hit record, yapped, edited it, and posted it on YouTube. And because I made that decision to just step out of my comfort zone and do something new, Now I found this hobby, this thing that I really enjoy, and this platform that I'm really enjoying learning about it and growing on. Now, like I said, I'm not always perfect when it comes to making these big choices on deciding between choices that I have, but there are a few ways, a few methods that I use to kind of make these processes kind of simpler for myself. The first one being accepting that perfect decisions just don't exist. I think in the end, at least in my opinion, the problem isn't making the wrong choice, it's being scared to make any choice at all. We naturally want all of our decisions to be the right ones or the perfect ones. And a lot of the times that just doesn't happen. But I don't think that's very realistic, and understanding that is the first step. Now, you can procrastinate or put off making a decision for as long as you can, but in the end, you're really only hurting yourself, and making an okay decision in the moment is much better than waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect opportunity for that perfect choice that you know is never going to happen. I've taken jobs in cities that I never thought that I would visit or even wanted to visit, and because of that, I've made great memories, I've met some amazing people, and again, I've really grown as a person because I wasn't scared to make the hard choice. Taking risks is really unavoidable at times, so in my opinion, you might as well embrace it. Tip number 2, I tend to limit my choices and I set deadlines for myself. Because I can overthink a lot, I find it helpful to kind of limit all of the choices that I give myself at one time. Because when I find myself juggling multiple paths or multiple choices, I cause myself to overthink about every single one of those choices. And if I do that for enough time, I tend to spin out, I get stressed out, and it just makes the whole process just really terrible for me. I also find it's much easier to build confidence when you dedicate yourself to one path and just stick with that. So I do that. I limit my choices, don't give myself too much to think about. I find out what I really want to do, and I go with that thing. And to go along with that, I also tend to give myself time limits or deadlines to when I have to make a decision about something. If there's a big choice that I need to make, I will find myself thinking about every single possibility about the future of that choice. And so to limit that, I give myself time limits. End of the day, end of the week, in 2 weeks. It doesn't matter what choice I make as long as the choice is made by the end of that time, because again, it gives me parameters and it gives me a deadline. And number 3, you can always pivot. And if you find out that the path or the choice that you made just isn't for you, or things don't necessarily work out the way that you wanted them to, it's okay. Just pivot. I think a lot of people just don't consider the possibility of switching gears or switching mindsets a choice or a thing that you're able to do, especially since it's a really common part of life. Switching up things when you have more information or going back to something when you're a little bit more experienced. And of course, this is a lot easier for certain decisions as opposed to others. But if you can and you have the opportunity to do so, make a change, pivot. For example, I didn't get into school the first time I applied. I did not get into grad school, my doctoral program, the first year I applied. And so I had to switch my plans. I spent that next year working, reapplying, making myself a better applicant. And eventually I got in the second time because I took what was given to me. I switched up my plans. Instead of just giving up or feeling like I wasn't good enough, I pivoted and I came out on top. In my opinion, the best decision that you can end up making is to actually make one and stick with it. Life is literally just making decisions, a bunch of decisions, and following up on those decisions with your actions. And if you wait for the 100% perfect choice, the 100% perfect opportunity, the 100% perfect time to come about, get ready to be disappointed. Are you an indecisive person, or is there any specific way that you deal with having to make hard choices? If so, please let me know down in the comments. But other than that, if you decided to stick around throughout this whole video, thank you so much. I really appreciate you for watching. We'll see you in the next one.